All right, time to focus on the holidays. If you're getting someone a gift of OREO wine, order tomorrow. Holidays are going to look a little different than last year in a good way. Fewer COVID restrictions in place. And in our nation's capital, the Washington Ballet's dancers can perform the Nutcracker in front of a live audience once again. When the pandemic shut down performances and in-person rehearsals last year, many ballerinas found themselves in an unwanted period of self-reflection. Well, Vlad Duthiers caught up with some of them who told us how that time in isolation or of isolation and away from the stage inspired them in unexpected and new ways.
Live and on full display, Nutcracker fans finally had a chance to watch the Washington Ballet's principal ballerina, Catherine Barkman, perform as the Sugar Plum Fairy in person.
It's not through Zoom, it's not through a video, it's live, and just the energy of coming back to this place was like stepping into like a cathedral, for me. This is where my heart has wanted to be for the last 2 years, and we're here, and now I just don't want to miss a second.
Because you know what's been lost.
Because it was gone.
Yeah.
And with that loss comes this like profound appreciation that I just don't want to miss it again.
Last year, we spoke to Barkman virtually. When the pandemic shuttered stages across the country, Barkman and the entire company were forced to practice from their living and dining rooms. Dancers Andile Indolovu and Nardia Badu spent quarantine together.
I couldn't really wrap my head around my identity without ballet.
Badu has been with the company 5 years.
I did have a little bit of a crisis. I didn't know myself outside of performing. All of my decisions were based off of myself in that identity. So it was really difficult.
But she turned that struggle into a search for new inspiration.
I discovered that I have talents in other places. Like, I have a passion for teaching Pilates. Also, I discovered that maybe I could potentially push myself outside of ballet and develop my personality.
I always knew that whether it's 2, 3 years, 4 years lockdown, I would still come back. And that is when I realized, oh, now let me put my brain to work on the other things.
Indolovu focused on one of his passions, making dance more inclusive by choreographing new pieces specifically for dancers of color. What's changed and what needs to be done going further?
Now, women of color are more in the forefront, are more showcased now. What we need to do is shift perspectives, and we need to create these new stories, these new storylines.
For teenage dancers Amaya Joseph and Sasha Perkins, the pandemic brought conversations about inclusion and equality center stage.
That time was really difficult. I feel like now, with people that are more open to inclusion and things like that, I feel like even people who aren't of color are able to be a part of these conversations.
I did take part in a lot of protests. In the long term, definitely it was very hopeful for me to see that our country was changing and that there was something to look forward to in terms of racial equality and justice.
My intention for going on stage has shifted in the last 2 years.
Inspired by what was happening during the quarantine, Barkman says she regained her identity.
During the pandemic, my eyes were open to so many things.
And on the stage this year, her mission is simple.
If I'm really doing this to spread joy, then it shouldn't really matter if 2 people are watching, if a full audience is watching, if it's not even live. And there's just this sacredness now.
I love what Catherine told me. If you can go to the Super Bowl, go to the Super Bowl. It's the same thing with the ballet. If you can go to the ballet, go to the ballet. The Washington Ballet's Nutcracker will run through the day after Christmas, and then it's on to Swan Lake. The ballet, the dancers were performing when the pandemic first hit. Wow. This was a remarkable moment for me because I spoke to Catherine during the pandemic, and we talked about practicing virtually, and to see them back on the stage and to meet the dancers and to hear that if you've been doing this for your whole life and all of a sudden you can't do it, what does that do for you?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Who are you? That was what they discovered about
And they're
themselves.
16, 17?
The 2 that we spoke to, Amaya and Sasha, are 16 and 17 years old. They're the next generation, and when you see the next generation, you hear from them, I'm very hopeful and optimistic.
When you're spreading joy, I like a lot of people watching.
Thank you, Vlad. Appreciate it.